But what comes to your mind when you think of a mentoring program? Like what kind of image? What is a mentoring program that we've seen outside of Timoteo? Not Timoteo.
Big Brother.
Big Brothers. How's that look?
Well, I don't know.
What do you know of Big Brothers, Big Sisters?
So I would assume it's pretty good.
I mean, is it how does it work? Is it like us, a bunch of guys getting together and say, hey, let's go do a football team? Like, what's the difference between Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and Timoteo?
From what I've noticed is like there is definitely an age difference, and then they may have them for sometimes throughout a certain period of time, but then after a while it kind of falls off. You don't see it anymore.
Right. A lot of times it's a year commitment,
right,
as opposed to how long have you been in the league?
Since 08.
The biggest difference is like with the Big Brother people, it's just random people come in that you don't know. It's like you know everybody already.
Right. Random white guys from the suburbs.
Yeah, you don't know.
Right. And so, you know, it's interesting, you know, as we really started taking a turn to about making Timoteo more focused on mentoring, you know, I've really started reading a lot of stuff, and I'm like, I mean, there's a whole field of just this study of mentoring and that sort of thing. And but one of the things that I'm discovering is that there's really a lack of study on group mentoring, right? There's really a lack of study, because really what it is a lot of it is the one guy, let me meet up with one kid an hour a week, or however, you know, what is agreed on, for a year, typically. I mean, that seems to be something I read a lot of. And what I'm suggesting is group mentoring. I think as I read that, there's not a lot done, but it seems like sometimes it's like, all right, how can I mentor this group of kids, right? And so it's almost like one or two guys doing a group thing. And what I want to suggest is that there's a different model of mentoring that I'm going to call the multiplex mentoring, which you can't really see right there. All right, and you're like, what in the heck is that word? This actually comes from, you know, and I think too, group mentoring, if you think about it, like, is better. Because like what you're saying, some random dude, right, just shows up, right? And you're just like, who is this dude? Like, this is awkward. Whereas what we have is, in terms of group, is not just what I want to look at of our mentoring, what makes us unique. It's not just us mentoring a group of kids, but it's a group of people mentoring a group of kids. And we all know each other. And the more we know each other and we're cool with each other, the more effective we're going to be as mentors, as we're going to see. Now, when I was in seminary, right, several years ago, back in the 1900s, and yeah, guys, it goes so fast. And when we were in there, I was studying anthropology, which is the study of human culture, right? And so we had this gig on, we were talking about social networks, right? And basically, so, and the guy was talking about this thing called how we all have roles in life, right? So think about yourself. And think about the different things that you do in life, right? So you go to church, involved in Timoteo, work, you hang out with so-and-so, you watch the games with so-and-so. So you have a variety of people, you know, your school, your friends, family, church, Timoteo, mentor. These are different areas in your life that you yourself are part of, all right? Long story short, in what was called a simplex society, which a lot of times can happen in an urban community, is all of these areas are disconnected. So you can go to church, right, on a Sunday, right, and then go out with your friends, get hammered on Friday, and they're never going to know because you're disconnected. Like you're not going to church and partying with those same people on Fridays. Right? It's two separate worlds. So it's a simplex society. And he talked about how it's often so disconnected that there's not real community in that. And when I was sitting there in that seminary, I was like, dang, that's me, man. Like I'm just in seminary. I'm going to church. I'm going to work, but they're not ever really connected. And he talked a lot about how we need to be a people that live in a different way. And as I started thinking about it, we also can divide up secular and sacred. So right now, here's an example. You know, church is a simplex thing, is a Sunday thing, right? Where I got to be holy, I got to be cool, I got to clean myself up good enough to go to church. Whereas the rest of the week, it's totally separate, right? Monday through Thursday, it's different. I think about a simplex society is awkward. So if I come in and I'm in all of these roles, right? And let's say over here to Mateo, let's change that to locker room. And we make an announcement up here to the kids. All right, we want you guys to go to the locker room. How many kids do you think went to the first locker room tonight? Any guesses? Zero. Zero kids went. Because if I'm here and I say, hey, Johnny, you should go to here, or you should come here and get some school help, dude's not going to go because I don't know what the locker room is. Where is it? It's different. It's new. I'm disconnected. I don't have that direct connect, so it's not going to be as effective. And what I want to suggest is we have, we go the other way. I want to suggest we go and life we need to look at is a multiplex society. That's what our goal is, right? This is the big anthropological term. And basically it is the people I go to church with are the same people I'm chilling with as my friends, or I'm going to school with, or I work with some of the same people I'm in Timoteo with, or mentor. You see how all of life is mentored? So now all of a sudden I see this kid that I'm working with, right? And I see that he wants to go to college, but he's not completing his homework on time. He's having a hard time. But you know what? Like, I'm not a tutor, bro. I'm not. It's not my thing. But you know what? Wayne is. So all of a sudden I meet this kid in Timoteo, right? Hey, bro, how you doing? Let me go with you to the locker room, you see? And how we begin tying things together. And multiplex mentoring is about being creative and how we connect and tie our worlds together. If I only know you, and see, this is where I don't like church. I don't like church if the only time I ever see you is at church. To me, that's not real church. Yeah, because all I'm seeing is this kind of facade, and you see this fake me. It's not me. It looks good. My family looks good. Until I get home and my wife starts nagging. Right? And I don't see the reality of it. And if all you see is a fake me at church and me and my wife, the divorce rate in the church is just as high as it is outside of the church. It's because too often we have these simplex relationships. To whereas if I'm real, right, with Ruben and he sees me. Now, this is a perfect opportunity. We had a marriage retreat, last weekend? Yeah. And we talked about this multiplex thing. Like, we were so multiple. We had Timoteo, Esperanza Health, Esperanza USA, Esperanza College, anything else. Esperanza was probably there. And, you know, and we've been friends since I moved here. We lived in the same area. And, like, our families are intertwined. They're friends.
IDB, BGA.
IDB, BGA, down the line. Gap. I mean, it was so connected. And when we were there, we just realized, like, you know what? Like, this is really what the church is about, man. It's like, it's people getting together and airing your funk out. And we were able to say, look, our marriages aren't perfect. But yet, how often outside of the church do you realize, like, do people say, yeah, my marriage sucks, or is struggling, or, you know what I mean? And being honest with it. And we were in the context, we had the kind of relationship where we could be real with each other, and we can walk with each other and help each other get better in what we're doing. Same way, this is the same concept that I think we need to have. We need this kind of mentoring, this kind of lifestyle that we have. And I look at our relationships as coaches. When we first had Timoteo and we were doing Coaches Could Play, right? Anybody remember that? Mm-hmm. And I was a quarterback, worst quarterback in Packers history. But anyway, but when we stopped, we ended up saying, hey, we should start with Polycore. Because if we start Polycore, what it does is it'll allow some of these 18, 19-year-olds, some of these coaches that are only in it to play, give them opportunity to play. But what happened was we found that when we did that, it actually tied our relationships closer together. We saw each other in a new light. And the more, and like this right here, this is a new light. Whenever we begin seeing the other face of somebody else in different environments, we begin to know that person more. And so this is the very foundation of things. And one example of this is when I was living in Kentucky, we went to a shelter for women and mothers, me and my wife. We went there to do a Bible study. And while we were there, this lady comes to the door. She goes, is this the Bible study? We're like, yeah. She's kind of grumpy. She's like, all right, I'll come in on one condition. No one touches me. I know how you Christians are, always hugging and whatnot. No one touches me. I'm like, dang, chill. All right, come on in. No one touches. And so her name was Lena. And we were, I was saying, we're getting her cracking up and stuff like that, just being stupid like we always are. And she told us that she had agoraphobia, which is basically a fear of people, which sucks if you're poor and homeless, right? I mean, if you're rich or you win the Xbox and you can just go home and be away from people and have something to do, that's cool. But like, to be reliant on people but have an absolute fear of people. Like, Dave could be agoraphobic and he'd be fine now. She had an absolute fear of people, but by the end of the night, everybody left, and she was just cracking up. Like, she could tell, like, we had this connection, right? And as soon as we're done, she says, I said, you know what, Lena? I said, before you go, can I give you a verbal hug? Right? And I'm always pushing her, right? And she said she felt as if God were saying, it's okay. And she gave me a physical hug, and she gave my wife a physical hug that first night. Now, if the story stops there, in the simplex, right? And it's me, Lena, we connect, she hugs us first night. Hey, that's a great story, isn't it? But you know what? She needed more than Jesus. She needed more than a hug. She also needed a community. And that's what it was. Being Jesus isn't just saying the prayer, but it was like, let me be a part of this community that Jesus talks about. Right? And so what we did is we started hanging out with her, getting to know her a little bit, had her over for dinner, invited other homeless folks, formerly homeless folks. We invited seminary people, old people, young people, all these people around the table. We were just like, we have nothing in common with any of these cats. What are we going to talk about? No idea. But it just happened. And it was by tying these worlds together that she ended up connecting with a formerly homeless couple and ended up finding housing. And then from that, long story short, and then I took her to our church, right? Our church is a house church. She came up she was scared out of her mind. I warned everybody ahead of time, like, look, man, you got to chill because, she's little. And she's up there just freaking out and stuff. She wouldn't hug anybody, touch anybody. But within 6 months, she became the mama of the church. And you got in trouble if you didn't go in and hug her. She was completely healed of her agoraphobia. You see? And we began tying and connecting intentionally those different things. And so, I'll go quickly through this. So with this, Multiplex, when we talk about Multiplex Mentoring, it's more than just, hey, I got to get my hour in, right? It's more than, hey, how do I get my hour in? It's about the time and space. It's like, I think Jesus had it. He called it discipleship, right? It was about, hey, let me live with these dudes and let me live life with them and show them how to do stuff. When they jack up, let me show them how to get it right. And the thing that gets it cool with me about Jesus is Jesus wasn't even 100%. He wasn't even 100% in his mentoring. Think about it. When it all came down to it, he needed them most. They ran away from him, right? When he needed them the most, Peter denied him. Somebody sold him out and literally got him killed. You're right? And so, to me, it gives me hope. That, like, sometimes we have so much pressure on ourselves that, hey, I got to get this right. This kid's going to be jacked up. It's going to be my fault. No, it's not. And that's the importance of us. Because what this multiplex mentoring does, it takes the pressure off. So now all of a sudden, you know what? This kid's having a hard time relating to me, man. But maybe he can connect with Sadiq a little bit better. Hey, Sadiq, can you connect with this dude? And we begin using each other's strengths. We begin finding by knowing each other, we know each other's strengths. We know what we can bring to the table. And the more that we know, the more we build our multiplex, the more we do this, we begin sharing. And part of it is we got to realize our mentoring is a way of life. Right? The word that we often throw around is incarnation. You guys familiar with that word? The incarnation is basically God becoming flesh. It's living amongst us. It wasn't like, all right, here's how you got to live. No, Jesus he lived among us, and that's what we're doing. That's what you said, right? It's not some random people coming from the outside to mentor these Timoteo kids, to coach these kids. We are these kids. We live here. This is our home. This is our people. We go through some of the same struggles. Our kids get beat up just like anybody else, So some of this stuff is reality that we face. But because we face it and we live differently and we got each other's backs, our mentoring can be very effective in terms of a group mentoring. I'll go through some of this real quick. I think also through this, sharing the network is sharing the load. Empowerment happens as well. I think once we have an impact, when we see things that happen, see, it's not just about me having to run things as a mentor. But you begin seeing, like you see even Jesus, what he did is he took these 12 dudes, right, and walked with them. But even of those of the 12, he picked 3 guys and said, you know what, there's something special about you all. You all have some abilities that maybe some of these others don't. And he left them, he empowered them to make a difference, right? And I think that's what we need to do too. And part of our mentoring is, it's not just about, hey, let me get this kid through, score my touchdown, and we're done, we win the Urban Bowl, that's it. But like we begin seeing guys, and I think some of you guys have been in the league that are now here, part of this training, part of trying to take things to the next level, how we can help these kids get to school and get better off and do better, not just in football field, but in different things. So is there any questions so far about the mentoring multiplex? Does it make sense? How the group, it's about how can we tie our worlds together. So I want to go real quickly, since our time's short, I want to look at 4 faces, mentor faces, right? Because I think there's many faces of mentoring. Like, if we all have gifts. We all have things that we bring to the table. And we can't expect you to be everything to everybody, right? And so what I want to do is, and part of what we're about is learning to be interdependent on each other. Like, let's get to know each other. Let's build on each other's gifts, right? And another thing is we need to be holistic. We need to look at our kid and look at the entire aspect of their lives. And that's how we're able to do things different, because we're involved in their whole life. So here we go. Mentors coach. How have you seen mentoring as a coach? You've been in it forever, someone. How have you seen mentoring as a coach, practically? Go ahead. I'm going to open it up a little bit.
Player development.
Say more.
Just kind of developing a player in the aspect of as far as courage, giving them the fundamentals about the game of football, but also giving them the fundamentals of just character building, courage out there. Don't be afraid to take a chance, do this, do that, catch it this way, certain like that, certain things like that.
Right. Others. How have you seen mentoring in your context of coaching? You guys saw some this week, right? We want to share what happened there.
Yeah, definitely. Some of our kids come to youth group, and I know that there's a pastor at the front teaching, and they'll be looking at Instagram, and they don't care about. They care, they like it, they talk about it. But once they felt betrayed by their friend, and they felt like they hated someone for beating them up and all of that, then when we started talking about forgiveness after they got punched in the face by somebody, and I'm telling them to forgive that person, it was mentoring on a whole nother level. And I saw the one good testimony that came out of the whole situation that we went through was the one kid, Armani, who didn't want to forgive someone for an argument that they had 3 weeks ago. I kind of walked him through it, and I was with the other kid, and he got a phone call. And he put it on speaker, and it was Armani. Armani was calling him to forgive. Like, please forgive me for what happened. I'm sorry for what happened. It went too far. I'm so sorry. So to see that character development, because I know exactly what you're talking about when you see a kid that can't catch at all, and then he starts catching. And that's exciting. But we were able to see a kid that didn't want to forgive, find forgiveness in his heart for his fellow teammate.
Yeah, so coaching, there's such I love it, man. You look at life decisions, there's leadership development, you have to deal with family. For some of us, where we become a father figure, can't tell you how many times people said, oh yeah, Dad, just kind of joking around, but like, it's something. And I think some of it too, as a coach, is real power in being vulnerable. I think like, you're able to show your humanity, and that's what's good about us. We don't have to be something we're not, right? And it's not about being perfect, but about rebounding from your imperfections. Like I've broken a few clipboards in my day, you know what I mean? And I've had to say I'm sorry, and I've talked about that in my own anger issues and stuff like that. And, and I think as a coach, it teaches us, we can teach respect and authority and structure, and we can develop an intimate relationship that can basically, when we talk about the multiplex, the relationship of a coach can be at the very core of these kids and can connect them into a lot of different areas. So another one is mentor as teacher. Just real quick, I think we can talk about the locker room, right? And our hope is we decrease the gap of 92% wanting to go to college and only 44% are doing their homework on time. I have way more stats by this time next year, when I'm able to break down all these 200 some surveys that just come across. We haven't had time to really break it down yet, but when I look at that, are we asking about their grades? Are we connecting them with people who can help? And so one of my challenges to each of you is this week, let's put our heads together and let's think of one person that we can bring to the locker room next week. Next week is 6 o'clock, Esperanza College. It's right around the corner. Some of us will already be there, so if you can drop them off, something like that. There'll be people there. Let's put our heads together, and how can we begin? Because we have to be the ones that walk people into this and begin setting the table and saying, look, it's cool. And before long, like with Lena, right? When she was a little bit high maintenance right after a while. And the good thing about a multiplex, if it's a simplex, her high maintenance becomes my issue and my problem. And if I move or I do something different, she's left alone. But if she's part of a broader network, then she comes absorbed in that community. And if something happens to me, I die or move on or something like that, she's still a vital part of that community. It's the same way with our kids. If we can begin helping them tie into each other in our community, and I think this locker room is going to be that next step where, because most people, they think teachers are idiots. Not necessarily most people, but there are some teachers that are idiots. I mean, I know that there's kids. I live right down the street from Frankfurt High School, and my daughter got in trouble today for being to school late. She was late 1 minute one day. She was late 4 minutes 2 days, and 6 minutes another day. And if you're 4 minutes, or if you're 4 times or more, you got to have Saturday detention. And it's, but I'm Frankfurt. I'm like, yo, like that's early for Frankfurt. You know what I mean? Like, what the heck? That's crazy. These people out here. So I think for us, we need to help begin to show a different culture, a different way. And so part of that is being a teacher is the locker room. And another piece is mentor's boss, right? I would say that through this, one of the ways we're doing this is through summer camp. And some of you guys have already been through it. This is, I think, one of the most incredible things we're doing. We're taking 8 guys, 16 or 17 years old, and that we see leadership capabilities, a couple that are here now, that we see leadership capabilities, and we're pouring ourselves into them, bringing leaders from the community to speak into them. And you know what? It's their job. And we say, look, you can be flipping burgers, or you can be doing football, doing something you love, but we hold them to a high standard. And we didn't start late ever, right? I mean, I was there 15 minutes early every day, and there's people waiting at the doorstep, because if they're late, we're going to deduct pay, right? And it goes in Buddy Nice pocket. No, just kidding. But it was cool when we held them to a high standard, right? It gave them an opportunity to step up and to be, to share gifts that they have, help them sharpen some stuff, help them learn some new stuff. They saw a new way, and part of this was in an environment they were really able to say, you know what? And that's why I really want us to try to tie in some of the locker room stuff into this next year, into that, because I think we can take guys even to the next level. So it's not just about, hey, how can we get guys jobs, but I think we need to think about how can we help them continually keep jobs and get jobs that pay a living wage. And finally, I'm sorry, I'm taking too much time, is the mentor's pastor. And this is huge, man. I mean, some of us, and that's the beauty, I think, of our league, is that we're all at different levels spiritually. I can't tell you how many ministries I've been a part of where, hey, if you don't look clean, if you're not clean, out with you, man. You're not part of this. But I think that's what's beautiful about us, is we have people in different various aspects of their life and their walks with Jesus and different things like that. But yet there's still this respect for each other, And it's important that if you're not a place where, hey, you know what, like, I can lead this person to Jesus. Like, hey, bring me a chaplain on, man. It's important that we begin helping kids to think deeply about their spirituality. If they don't believe in God, why? Okay, why not? What is it that happened or exists why you don't believe in God? And we need to also ask about the questions of life. What is the meaning of life? Why is my life the way it is? What's the purpose of life? What do we do about life's tragedies? When kids get beat up and jacked, or people get killed. I mean, these are realities in our streets and in our neighborhoods. And so for us, it's a real opportunity to see things different. And I'll leave with this story. As I was in North Carolina a few months back, and a buddy of mine was at this church. He's a youth pastor. And he was showing me around. It's a real nice church. I mean, one of the fancy ones, right? And so he showed me all around, and he said, but look outside here. And it was a black top, right? And new, fresh black top, except right where the basketball court was, you could tell where it was wore down because all the kids were playing basketball constantly, right? I mean, all the time. He said, I love it here. He goes, this is amazing because this is all these kids come here. It's like my mission field. And in the church, we talk a lot about mission field, missions, going out and helping people come to Jesus, that kind of thing. And he goes, but the thing is, these kids come week after week after day after day after day playing basketball, but they never come into the church unless they got to take a whiz, right? And then they come right back out. But they're never part of a program, our campus, or nothing like that. And as we walked around, I said, you know what? I think I know what your problem is, bro. I said, your problem is you're seeing the basketball court as the mission field. What you should see it as the sanctuary. Now the sanctuary is the place where God, right there, it's inside. It's where the work of God is. And so often, we want to try to come out. And I can't tell you how many people don't go to church in our community because they feel like they're not clean enough. Like they're dirty, they don't have their crap together, and somehow we have to get our crap together before we can go into church. And what I would say, we got to flip that mentality, right? The church isn't just and you think about the multiplex, right, or the simplex. Now, if you're living in the dirt, how many people are going to go to church, right? It's going to be hard because you're feeling like, I don't really know nobody, it's a weird culture. That's why it's so important for us as people in the church to go out, get to know these kids, build real relationships with them. Say, all right, you come with me, bro. And then we come in and we're able to bridge some of these gaps and bridge some of that stuff. And I think a pastor, we need pastors, man. Some kids we need to redefine the sanctuary and realize the work of God is within the church, but it's also on the football field. It's within the huddles. It's within the locker room. It's in every part of life that we're in that we can see that we have an opportunity to mentor kids and to change lives. And so that's my thing. I think the mentor multiplex and my challenge, I guess, is how are we tying it all together, right? We had the football piece, and think about your life. Are there areas where you just kind of simplex? Are there areas of your life or gifts that you have that you can begin tying in? Or maybe it's a skill or something you have that you can bring a kid along with you to tie in that. So I'll leave that. I mean, if there's anybody that has any reflections or final thoughts or anything along that lines, we'll do that. If not, we can move on to Buddy.
Chris, when you were mentioning the locker room and talking about multiplex, is it all right to bring kids to the locker room that don't play Team Hotel that night?
Absolutely.
All right, great.
Absolutely. Girls, that probably bring all the Team Hotel guys in. Yeah, most definitely. And we need, and that's the kind of thing we got to go outside there. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's powerful. Yeah. And that is, and I think we just need to be intentional, man. And I think part of it is just, I know as a kid, I didn't want to, I want to go in the locker room with, what? We're going faster, what's that? You know what I mean? But being able to have somebody go with me and explain it and do it, like it would help. So,
can you go back up to the slide where is the multiplex mentoring where everything's connected? Because my question is, does this make sense? Like, is it possible in this day and age to have so much of your life intersected from, how you do your sports or fitness or whatever, school, family. How hard is that, or how easy is it to have that integrated today? Do any of them connect in your life?
For me, with the exception of school, they all tie into one another.
So almost everything there ties in together in your life. So it's not that complicated, right? It seems like it can seem like it's a lot of work, but the reality is it's really about relationship, right?
Right.
It's that idea of 6 degrees of separation, right? But what this says is almost always less than that, maybe just 1 degree of separation. Everybody here knows a teacher. Everybody here knows a coach. Everybody here knows a pastor. You can go on down the. I mean, everybody here knows an employer, right? Everybody here knows a mentor. So the reality is this already exists. You in some ways have to acknowledge it and put the pieces together and say they don't have to be separate. And as Chris says, that alleviates a lot of pressure. We were talking about this the other day where my son Jesse, Ruben, who coaches the Seahawks, he grew up around Buddy, and then his dad, he would call him Uncle Elias. And we were close. We were always going to the house, to our place, worship together, and so on and so forth. I'm trying to teach Jesse how to ride a bike. Okay, he was a little kid, and I'm like taking the time every day. You know, at the beginning, you normally don't get it on the first shot. And so Jesse's kind of, and Jesse didn't want no training wheels. So I'm like, all right, let's just go head first. So, and then the following week, I had to travel, so I leave out of town. And so I'm out of town. My wife calls and says, Jesse wants to go to Elias's house, but he wants to ride a bike. Is it okay? So I just know that something happens, it's Elias' responsibility, take him to the hospital real quick. So he goes out there, and Elias is teaching him how to ride a bike, and that's the day he learns how to ride a bike. So to this day, my son Jesse says that Uncle Elias is the one who taught him how to ride a bike. So I was the one who put sweat and tears for 2 or 3 weeks. That one day that I'm out of town, he's one. But guess what? I'm okay with that, because I realize that that's what this is about. That if I'm not around, I can trust another man to step in with my kids, or with the young people I'm mentoring, or with my friends, right? When you don't have this, it's the previous slide where everything is so separate. Everybody's like, hands off. But the kingdom of God is about this. The body of Christ is about this. Some are the arms, some are the nose, some are the feet, and this is about bringing it all together, right?
And that's how it was, like when I was first coaching the Packers. I loved it, right? But even after doing that, like I saw how, Buddy, we talk every day till hours, basically how we're going to beat the next team. And then the second year, I started noticing his language was changing a little bit. He wasn't cursing as much. No, just kidding. He was saying something like "my kids," using phrases like that. When we started talking about the kids as much as we were talking about the plays and all that. And that's when I realized, I was like, you know what? Like, you really have a lot of faith with these kids. Like, let me step back. You head coach. I'll be assistant. I'll take over again if you die or something like that. I mean, you become vegetable. And we had it in writing. No, I'm just kidding. And that's really what it's about. You know what I mean? It's and that's really, when we talk about the transactional versus transformational coaching. Transformational is being willing to empower the guys and be a part of that, and realize hey, I don't have all the answers. I can be good at somebody, but somebody might be better, and that's great. Let them be better, and let them shine. So, yeah.
It's funny that you bring this up, because I was just talking to Kevin on how we can build relationship with these guys outside of just practice on Tuesday and Thursday, and outside of just the game on Saturday. So bringing this whole multiplex society up, just confirms what God wants to do within this team. How where Sunday I'm inviting the team over for our youth service. Pastor wants to pray for them and present the team to the church, so that way the team knows the church that we go to, and they know the pastor, and the church knows the team that they represent. Yeah. So it's good that you brought it up. It's just a little confirmation.
I would just say, as you're doing that, right, sometimes you think it has to be expensive.